Welcome to Inside Marketing with Market Surge, your front row seat to the boldest ideas and smartest strategies in the marketing game. Your host is Reed Hansen, Chief Growth Officer at Market Surge.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Marketing with Market Surge. Locations. With over 15 years in sales, 7 in marketing, Anna's built a reputation for her values-driven approach, blending creativity with smart media strategy to get coverage that actually matters. Her philosophy is simple. PR isn't about chasing headlines. It's about crafting a bigger narrative that aligns with who you are and what you stand for. Today, we're breaking down what that looks like in practice, from purpose-driven PR and storytelling that sells to how to go from invisible to in demand. Anna, welcome to Inside Marketing with Market Surge.
Thank you for the intro, and thanks for the compliment, by the way. Honestly, I think it's the rice that I'm eating.
Well, fantastic. Whatever you're doing, I need to do more of it. That's awesome. So before we dive into strategy, I just want to start with like your background. You know, you've touched different business disciplines. How did you go from sales and marketing into PR, and what made you want to make that leap?
Yeah, that's a really good question because, as you know, in the market, the people. And throughout my experience helping other businesses, the main core of everything, what makes them successful, is the trust factor. And I just naturally evolved into PR with the understanding and experiences that I gained through sales and marketing. It is the bridge between the gap, the disconnect. For example, if a client is experiencing high traffic or high volume to their sales team, however, it's not converting, that is where PR comes into play. And then that's how I got here, pretty much.
Awesome. Awesome. So now you had a life before PR, like we said. What do you think are some of the misconceptions you may have had or you frequently see others have, you know, particularly from like entrepreneurs, that they have about PR and getting featured in publications?
So the main thing is a lot of people don't really understand the difference between PR and marketing. They think that if you're getting featured, it's going to translate into a high, and people are going to buy from that article after they read it. That's really not the case. It actually works hand in hand with marketing. Marketing is generating attention, and it's a one-way communication channel. With PR, it's a two-way communication. It's communicating with your target audience, building that trust and credibility through third-party validation and favorability in the market. So that once they see the attention through ads, it's generating interest through public relations from qualified buyers.
Oh, fantastic. So I saw on, I've seen in some of your content that you use the term purpose-driven PR. Can we talk a little bit about that? If you have any examples of what that might look like versus kind of this like spray and pray or, just mass pushing out press releases.
Yeah, Reed, that's the huge part about PR is that you build a foundation first, and that's where the purpose comes into play. Actually, even taking a step back, making sure that you're working with the right agency that one stands behind your beliefs, sees your vision, and aligns with your values so that they can properly represent you in the market to your target audience and share and frame you in the right light because we're both on the same page now, right? So, and then moving forward, what you put out there, it's not just spray and pray, it's not just noise, it's strategic communications on a larger scale.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that's very helpful. Do so for a company that's like thinking about investing in a PR effort, how do they find this story? I'll tell you from experience that it doesn't always come naturally, and like as I've even thought about doing it for our company, it's like, well, we do what we do. I don't know how to make it an interesting story. How do you draw that out?
Yeah, a lot of the times, I even get the client that would say, "Hey, I want to build some meat first before I get published." And then I always say it's great to have a documentation of the development of your business so that even though it's starting off small, you don't know how to frame it. If you're working with the right team that can see your vision, this is where we can help you frame each step of the way, each article, kind of just build that momentum so that in the long run, we have something that we're working towards, right? So if you aspire to launch nationwide or international, what are the pieces in place that we can document now at your beginning stages that will set you up for, this is why they made it this far
Yeah.
later on?
Okay. No,
Mhm.
that makes sense. Have you seen any examples where had a big impact on a company? And I'm thinking like a company that might have been a little, wary of the approach, but after some PR hit, that it might have shifted their visibility or their authority on a topic.
Yeah, oftentimes, PR is a long-term game. If you're expecting instant results, it's not going to happen overnight because, again, you're developing a relationship. However, if you're consistent enough and you are communicating consistently, I would say even a year's time, you will see traction. I've worked with consultants and coaches, and there's so many nowadays, right? How do you
Yeah.
stand out and how do you confirm that you are able to deliver this type of results that you're promising? And this is where PR comes into play. And I've had clients where they're so searchable online organically through our placements that we got them featured in that people would just pick up a phone call and just based off of a Google search, even. So I've seen that. And again, it it's the awareness side. People are going to want to one remember your brand and know what you stand for, and then later on they'll take the action if they see your ads enough, and then everything is consistent across the board. It's
Okay.
confirming for them what they're getting into, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's very helpful. So I understand that a key element of an interesting story is that it's real. It's not fabricated, and maybe it's unique. How do you strike the balance between, like, how do you polish a story? Like sometimes the real stories, it's not like we saw a problem, we immediately identified a process to solve it, and then we solved it, and everybody was happy. We cheered, and it was a great success. That would be a nice story. It doesn't sound super real though, and most real business stories have a lot of twists and turns. Maybe they're too long for a PR release or of any kind. Can you talk a little bit about how you polish stories that as you're thinking, it's like, well, we had a minor success, we tweaked something, then we had a little better success, we tweaked something else. You see where I'm going with this? Like, how do you turn that into a polished story while still seeming very realistic?
Yeah, that it ties in with kind of reputation management side. If you're working with the right team, they can help you angle each challenge that you overcome the right way to properly set you up for success on the next project or next launch. Say if it is just a minor challenge, you can always kind of document that a little bit. Maybe you're preparing for an event, but you failed. You can document the preparation part and then build momentum into the event that you're going to be in. And then afterwards, what's the result of that? So it's in three different sections, but now we have kind of like a timestamp between each stage going into each other. And later on, if there's any challenges that you didn't overcome or a brand doesn't overcome, now we can see, okay, this company tried this, and then this is what their pivot is. So if we break it down that way, kind of developing the story bit by bit, getting the people engaged and involved in the story, that is a great way to polish it. And then later on, perhaps get them into an interview, a long form interview, kind of like this. They can just address all of those publications all at once in a long form.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Anna, I'd be interested to back out a little bit and talk about your entrepreneurial journey. You're managing a company. Tell us a little bit about what's worked for you. Do you spend a lot of time in PR efforts for your own brand? What works for you as you're seeking growth?
Absolutely. So, what's worked really well, again, is just being consistent. I don't just have PR for my own brand myself, but also my business partners.
Hmm.
And our company, we also have a business consultancy side that we have invested quite a bit into our branding and awareness and trust building. We've even experienced, people just picking up a phone call and calling us because of our brand awareness and trust building. and it's nationwide as well, even into the United States. But yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
to answer your question, it's very important to help your potential audience or people that don't know about you just to build that trust. Because at the end of the day, marketing without trust is just noise. People need to remember and know what you stand for before they even want to get into contact with you.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Mhm.
So that takes me to another interesting topic. I know you are really committed to lead values and authenticity. We often think of PR as kind of like puffing somebody up or like exaggerating accomplishments or whatnot. It sounds like authenticity and integrity are really important. I assume that there's pressures to exaggerate or overemphasize, fabricate. How do you fight that pressure and stay honest and true?
Mm. So it goes back to making sure that you're working with the right brand or business because PR itself is a superpower. You're giving the person that you're working with a platform to scale their brand and reach people at scale, right? And you don't want to, abandon your own values just for the money.
Yeah.
And there are times, well, all the time when I work with a team, I make sure that I set that expectation correctly because I'm also putting my reputation on the line to pitch to these outlets. And I want to make sure that I stay a reliable source on both ends. I'm making sure that, I communicate everything correctly. Otherwise, if I'm giving the platform to somebody that has very bad reputation in the past, I will lose that credibility on my end as well. So,
Interesting. Yeah.
managing
Well,
expectations.
yeah. And, it's hard for, I'm sure it's hard to turn down business, and that is the sacrifice. Like if you knew you were being hired to do something dishonest, it's a balance. And, I appreciate that there are people like you that make the right choice. And, so let's envision on a brighter note, say you're successful in landing a very big media feature like Forbes or New York Times or Joe Rogan podcast, something like that. What would be a great way to maximize that opportunity so it doesn't just become like a 1 week or a few days of a PR bump? How do you maximize that over a long term?
Yeah, so that's a huge thing. I always ask my clients, okay, do you have any marketing strategy or team in place to maximize your placements that we're going to get you in? I make sure that there is a strategy or a game plan in place. And if we're, let's just say Joe Rogan, for example, if we were to get on there, then just make sure that we're in alignment with their team and how they're going to roll out their campaign as well, so
Yeah.
that both ends are benefiting from this feature, right? In terms of Forbes, there's different ways. Just making sure, first of all, that the online profiles are consistent and it accurately reflects the quality of the person before getting featured on Forbes so that when they say, hey, I was seen in Forbes, if they go to LinkedIn, any social media, Instagram, it just clicks like, okay, this makes sense. This is why that person is in Forbes, and then continue to leverage it in different outlets, whatever the team has in place. So, email, website, landing pages, books. It's great to have a quote like, hey, I was seen in Forbes.
Yeah, that's great. Definitely something that everybody should be doing. So maybe let's ask if you were to leave somebody that's totally unfamiliar with how the PR process works, do you have like a rule or some PR 101 tips that they should really grasp before they get involved or start paying for a service?
Yeah, so I always say just when you invest in either PR or marketing, just getting yourself out there, make sure that everything that you have online already accurately represents who you are and the quality of your service. So that once you pay for ads and you get a ton of traffic, at least that will help build the trust. And you feel like, hey, I'm spending way too much money on ads and it's not converting, then that's where the PR comes in. I would say invest in PR first so that you have a foundation laid. And when people land on your website, there are trust building factors that when you push ads, now it makes sense that, they're going to take the action to work with you because the trust is there.
Yeah. Well, I didn't prepare you for this, but I am always interested in the AI topic, and I'd be interested in your thoughts on how AI has impacted the PR world. And do you see in the next few years greater impact or relatively the same? Yeah, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on AI in PR.
Yeah, AI is a very helpful tool, not just for the client side, but also for the agency side. And at the end of the day, it does speed up the process on market research or even coming up with different angles that you may have not even thought of for the clients, right? So leveraging AI can definitely help in that sense. However, at the end of the day, AI can create content, but only humans can create real connection. So we can't just leave everything up to AI. We must work with what we know is going to make a lasting relationship. So, yeah, in that sense, AI has been helpful, but we can't stray away from the human connection side. On top of that, on the client side, it has dramatically helped us search and find out what their presence is online, especially with coaches, consultants. They are always curious. Okay, if you type in my first and last name, what shows up on Google? Now let's chat GPT that and confirm that there's no negativity and that it confirms everything that you find on Google, right? And then build a strategy from there. So it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting. I don't
Yeah.
know. Have you tried?
Well, we were talking earlier before it started. I guess my only experience with AI and PR, and so I mean, I completely agree with everything you're saying. I almost think it works. There's a lot of PR processes that are kind of repetitive, and like you're submitting pitches. And I was actually using it to get placements as a guest podcaster, and I'll give them a shout out, this pod pitch tool, which I really liked, but it almost worked too well. And I was tired of being a podcast guest. but I do think that the real human connection, you cannot replicate it. You almost have to be a little bit more deliberate and like bespoke in each pitch than I think AI can really provide. So that's my experience with it. I am a big fan of using PR. We're not big, but we do try to have focused, planned PR efforts, and I think it's a great investment for every company. Anna, tell us if people would like to work with you, if they think they're ready to jump into PR, or maybe they'd like you as a future guest on a podcast or like to run some ideas by you, where can they find you?
Yeah, the best place is Instagram. It's
Oh,
Level
great.
Up with Anna.
Awesome.
So Anna with two N's. But yeah, that's also my website too, if they want to connect with me. And I
Great.
would love to continue to deliver value on those channels too. So I usually post tips or I showcase publications that I've done in the past with my previous clients. And you can see how much they've grown in those channels too. So I like to share wins
Awesome.
on there.
Well, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to have you. And you shared some great information. I think people maybe on the fence hopefully would want to jump into doing some PR projects. And I hope they reach out to you.
Thank you so much, Reed. It was a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you.
Want to stay ahead of what's actually working in marketing right now? Head over to marketsurge.io and see how we're helping businesses grow smarter, faster, and louder. That's marketsurge.io, because your next breakthrough shouldn't be a guess.